Hi everyone, my name is Emily Luby and I'll be your MC for this evening. I serve as Special Assistant to Mayor Jones. Thank you all so much for being here. We're really grateful for your attendance. We started the Cabinet and Community Initiative last November in North St. Louis with the goal of increasing transparency, accessibility, and developing relationships with you, the residents. I want to thank the entire team at Bishop DuBourg High School, especially Dr. Monica Fries, the custodial staff, and everyone that helped set up the gym for tonight. As you can see, they're juggling a lot this evening, and we're really grateful that they squeezed us in on such a busy night. And thank you to Alderman Oldenburg for hosting us in your ward. Yes, right here. A couple housekeeping things before I pass the mic. Restrooms are directly behind you. It's pretty easy to miss them, so they're right outside these doors. I recommend everyone have a community packet. I don't have a copy with me right now, but it has a lot of helpful flyers that we'll reference this evening. There's also a QR code if you didn't get a packet, and you can flip through them on your phone as well. And then we also have comment cards for folks, so if you're not comfortable asking a question in front of everyone, you can write down your thought on a comment card, raise it in the air, and someone from our team will come around and pick it up from you. If we're short on questions during the Q&A portion, we might read some of them during this evening. And lastly, please silence your cell phones. Thank you again for joining us, and I'm going to pass the mic to Dr. Fries.
Good evening. I'll keep mine very brief, but we are so honored to have everybody here at Bishop DuBourg, and so honored that we were chosen to host this amazing event. These community events are so important. So we're thrilled that you are all here. Thank you again for choosing DuBourg, and if there's anything you need, just let me know. And now we'll pass this off to Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Dr. Fries, and certainly thank you for having us, wonderful Bishop DuBourg High School. I just want to welcome everyone to the fantastic Second Ward, to the St. Louis Hills neighborhood. I want to welcome all the cabinet members and the department heads from the city. And the only thing I want to stress upon you all tonight is this is an extraordinary opportunity. This is a rare darn thing that city government does. They are opening up entirely themselves to us, right? There's going to be questions. You're going to hear a lot about the various departments. And I want to thank the mayor for her leadership on that. So this is an opportunity where you can hear your city, right, that works for you and all the things that are taking place. So please have some questions ready. We'll have the program begin right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman. And without further ado, Mayor Jones.
Y'all see, I brought my own cheering section with me this evening. Hi, everybody. Good evening, and thank you again for coming to our fourth Cabinet and Community. Give me a second while I put my readers on. We've been doing these all across the city. This is our fourth one. We started at Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club. We've been to Jean Slade Boys and Girls Club. We've been to Better Family Life, and now here. Before I start, I want to recognize all of my cabinet and staff that have come with me this evening. If you could just raise your hand and wave. Because this is important. Also, again, want to thank Dr. Monica Fries and Bishop DuBourg High School and Alderman Oldenburg for the warm introduction. I also want to thank the Department of Health for hosting a vaccine clinic earlier this evening. I hear that we were almost out of vaccines. We're about to run out, so if you are wanting a vaccine, you better go now. And also, I want to welcome any students here from Bishop DuBourg. Any students in the audience? Yes? No? Couple of students? Yes? Because it's important to show the next generation of leaders their government in action. So I hope the students have brought some tough questions for me. So I feel like I'm at home down here because the target right here on Hampton and Chippewa, that's my target. I've seen it go through many iterations, and that's my target where I shop. And some of you might have seen me shopping there at least once a week. But we've launched this initiative last November with the goal of bringing city government to you in the community, to meet you where you are, to tell you about the seeds that we're planting in gardens that we may never get to see, gardens to ensure that everyone in St. Louis can thrive. And we've made real progress making our city safer, stronger, and healthier. And there's so much work to be done, but we are far from finished. So in collaboration with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, the Circuit Attorney's Office, the Office of Violence Prevention, and our Cops and Clinicians program, and countless community violence intervention partners, we have implemented our three-pronged crime strategy, which is prevention, intervention, and enforcement, which I call PIE, to address crime in our city. And I'd like to take a moment to break down each of these components and how they work together. So prevention involves providing additional resources for our youth through job programming, job training, and reaching people before they enter a life of crime. Prevention also means proactively dealing with problem properties because they can create dangerous spaces in our neighborhoods. Intervention means using trusted messengers and reaching out to people who may be headed down the wrong path and diverting them before they commit more serious crimes. This work also involves working closely with our partners in the juvenile justice system and the Office of Violence Prevention and the grassroots organizations that they support. And last but not least, if all else fails, enforcement means bringing criminals to justice if they cause harm or exhausting our other intervention methods. And our police department's homicide rate was 38%. Our homicide clearance rate was 38% when I took office in 2021. Last year, that clearance rate was 75%. Our approach is both addressing crime at the root cause and holding those that commit crimes accountable. This strategy has led to a 40% decrease in homicides since I took office in 2021. And last year, we saw a 20% decrease in homicides, and so far, we're on pace to have even fewer homicides than last year. So we've made real progress making our city safer, but there's so much work left to be done because one life lost to gun violence is one too many. None of this would have been possible without radical collaboration from our local and national partners. The Biden-Harris administration, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, Everytown for Gun Safety, Moms Demand Action, and more. We are blessed to see a lot of seats and be at the table with a lot of national partnerships. And Will Pinckney and Chief Tracy are oftentimes called on to represent the city on those national partnerships. So I want to thank them for their hard work doing that. And just this morning, we held our second regional meeting for the Save Lives Now initiative, which aims to reduce homicides and shootings in our region by an additional 20% over the next 3 years. This is also a collaborative regional effort that was started under my chairmanship at the East-West Gateway Council of Governments and is composed of 3 tenets: focused deterrence, cognitive behavioral therapy, and street outreach. And we just hired our executive director, Brandon Sterling, and we're already off to the races. And about $2 million of ARPA funds is going to fund this work over the next 2 years. And we are excited about how this is going to help us reduce homicides and gun violence even more. On police recruitment, the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department is constantly recruiting. After a major recruiting campaign this summer, we received over 140 applications, and not all of these applicants will become police officers, but building a funnel is essential to building our workforce. Our next class of trainees will graduate next month, and that's about a dozen, and we're hoping to have 25 in the next class and already are working on another class of 25. And over 24 officers have returned to the department after leaving for another jurisdiction, thanks to pay raises I approved for police officers and the improved morale under the department under Chief Tracy. So if you or your cousin or your child or your grandchild or somebody you know wants to be a police officer, go to slmpd.org. We are hiring. But that's not the only way we're making our city safer. Last year, we raised wages to hire more 911 dispatchers, and we're breaking ground on a state-of-the-art 911 facility in North St. Louis this fall. And we've also embedded behavioral health professionals in our dispatch center so people can talk to a professional in real time and get the help that they need. And I was proud to work with the police department and the Office of Violence Prevention to implement the Cops and Clinicians program, a program that pairs an officer with licensed clinical social workers or other behavioral health professionals. So between 2021 and 2023, we've seen an over 40% reduction in behavioral health crisis calls and an over 50% reduction in substance abuse calls to the St. Louis Fire Department and EMS as a result of this new program and partnership. And when I'm in community and neighborhood meetings, and even at the Target on Hampton, one of my favorite places, the number one thing I hear from residents is, what are you going to do about guns? And how can we protect kids from getting guns? Or how can we prevent people from carrying AR-15s in broad daylight? Well, you all know that we have an uphill battle to fight against the state. And in collaboration with the entire St. Louis State Delegation to Jefferson City and the Board of Aldermen, we are banning celebratory gunfire in St. Louis this fall. That deserves, yes. Because I don't know about you, but New Year's Eve, I hit the deck. I also signed a bill to prohibit openly carrying weapons on our streets without a concealed carry permit. And we've also defeated the legislature's repeated attempts to have the state take over our police department because the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department belongs under local control and under the control of its city residents. And I know that safety isn't your only concern. We're also working aggressively to recruit and retain city employees because they make our city run. To date, we have increased city employee pay by adding a 3% across-the-board raise in fiscal years 21, 22, and 23, and gave employees a $2,000 bonus in fiscal year 21 for their hard work during the pandemic. This higher pay has allowed us to be more competitive in hiring and retaining our workforce, but we know we have a long way to go. We've modernized the hiring process, we've modernized our accounting system, and we've modernized our city payroll system. Now everything is computerized with the goal of becoming more efficient and increasing the speed at which we deliver basic city services. So we're at work doing the non-sexy things like, improving computers and throwing out typewriters and things like that. But while we're doing all we can to fix the things that we know about, we still need your help. If you see something that's not working right, like a broken trash container or a pothole or lights out or traffic lights out, send that information to your neighborhood improvement specialist or send that to the Citizen Service Bureau so it can be addressed. Our city is 62 square miles and we cannot be everywhere at once. So you can report it online, you can report it by calling us at 622-4800 or by tweeting us at STLCSB. And I want to be clear, we're not kicking the can down the road by asking you to submit your service requests. No, the CSB allows us to track how long it takes once you send us that request. So when you send us a request to fill a pothole or repair a street light or repair broken trash containers, it helps us bring accountability to those departments because we're all responsible for our city. For example, we have a whole host of abandoned cars in our city. And when you enter that information into the CSB, the tow staff can pull that information where the cars are to be towed and go right to that car and get it. And this week, we've already towed 40 abandoned vehicles which have been entered in CSB. So I also want to recognize any neighborhood improvement specialists that are here in the room. I know I saw Karen Clifford here earlier. Where are my neighborhood improvement specialists? Y'all are very, very important people. Yes. With ARPA money, we've purchased a new piece of equipment called a grappler. And I had no idea what this was until the forestry department told me what it was. So a grappler allows the forestry department to cut trees quicker and address the backlog of down trees. ARPA dollars were also appropriated to the forestry department to begin addressing hazardous trees on private property. And the forestry department received an $8 million grant to plant trees in the city, increasing our canopy coverage throughout the city so there'll be more shade on those hot summer days. Animal control is also now fully staffed, and we're in the process of designing a new animal shelter facility. And the medium security institution, or also known as the workhouse, will be demolished this fall. So we're also improving the ways that you can get around St. Louis to make our streets safer and more people-friendly. To date, we have paved everything on Jameson Avenue that Spire isn't working on. And once Spire is finished, the plan is to work with Alderman Oldenburg to pave the rest of the road. So it's so important that we collaborate with Spire and Ameren and our other local utilities to coordinate work, because there's nothing more frustrating than driving on a freshly paved road and then having it be ripped up just a month later. So we're developing our first ever citywide transportation and mobility plan. Once completed in 2025, the plan will establish clear citywide policies and policy recommendations for safer and better maintained transportation networks. And you can provide input. You can help us with this survey by completing it at the sign-in table. There were paper copies there, or there's a QR code on the packets that you picked up on your way in. And safety improvements and traffic calming in front of Ted Drew's is scheduled for January through March of next year. I'm really grateful to Alderman Oldenburg and Rich Bradley and his staff for working with the business owner to get this done and make the intersection safer for everyone, because I love me some Ted Drew's too. Yes. And rest in peace, Ted Drew's. I'm gonna miss that guy. With a grant from MoDOT and a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, we've reinstated driver's education, free driver's education, to train the next generation of young drivers. And to date, nearly 100 children have completed the program through Safe Drivers. And in collaboration with the Board of Aldermen, we're bringing back automated traffic enforcement, or red light cameras, and we're in the process of selecting a vendor for that. And this summer, the public gave us their input for improvements along our major thoroughfares, so Kings Highway, Grand, Union, Goodfellow, Jefferson, and some downtown paving and safety improvements. Kings Highway paving started last month on the north side, and it's moving south. We're gonna repair the sidewalks and ADA concerns, and once that's finished, the paving will begin, so your rides up and down Kings Highway will become a lot smoother. And all of this is possible, again, because of President Biden and Vice President Harris and the American Rescue Plan, because every dime of ARPA money will stay in St. Louis. I know I mentioned Rich Bradley earlier, but I want to give Rich Bradley and BPS a round of applause for tirelessly working on getting us from construction to design. So thank you, Rich. And if you want to see more of what we're doing with what we call Friendly Streets, you can Google Friendly Streets to learn more about the over $300 million that's being investment in street improvements, bike lanes, pedestrian walkways, and so much more. And if you want to know what we've done with the ARPA money so far, we've been allowed to start a day labor program for our unhoused neighbors, paint 2 murals in every ward, upgrade Marquette and Hyde Park, build new affordable housing in North St. Louis, support business owners and child care providers with grants, install public Wi-Fi in 9 city parks, purchase new equipment like the Grappler and 2 mobile clinics for the Department of Health. We've begun a guaranteed basic income program. We started the Northside Economic Empowerment Center to help small businesses. We purchased the Monarch, or the old Killark electrical facility, to turn it into a hub for workforce development. We've also used a lot of ARPA to address our streets and so much more. So we have been busy. So if you want to see the ARPA dashboard or how we're spending the money, you can go to arpa.stlouis-mo.gov to look for more information, or if you see that stronger STL signage with a QR code around the city, you'll be able to scan that QR code and learn more. Now I want to talk to you about how we're working with the public and private and corporate partners to make downtown safe, vibrant, and beautiful, because downtown is the cultural hub of our city. Back in May, I challenged SLDC and Greater St. Louis, Inc. to bring me a plan for the vacant Railway Exchange building, or the old Macy's, and the Millennium Hotel. Those buildings have sat vacant for decades, and one of them had a tree growing in the middle of it. And it was time to do something. So I gave them a deadline, and I'm happy to report that the Arch to Park Foundation has purchased the Millennium Hotel. And last week, SLDC filed the paperwork to begin the process of eminent domain on the Railway Exchange building that keeps both of those large buildings or landmarks in local ownership. We've also taken your concerns about the safety of downtown seriously, and we're continuing our all-hands-on-deck approach to making downtown safe, vibrant, and beautiful. And with the help of our partners at Greater St. Louis, Inc., you'll now see trained, uniformed, and unarmed public safety ambassadors patrolling downtown, and the increased St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department patrols have helped us decrease crime downtown by almost 30% year to date. Downtown is not a place for unsupervised teenagers or urban explorers to cause trouble for residents and for visitors, full stop. It is the cultural hub of our region, and we take that responsibility seriously. Just last week, we began work on building a pedestrian walkway to connect the Convention Center and Busch Stadium on 7th Street. So if you're on 7th Street, you'll see them breaking up the concrete. It's because it's going to be a walkway and pedestrian walkway to connect the stadium to the Convention Center. And we're putting resources into retaining existing businesses while supporting the ones that want to grow. Chief Tracy and I have met with several downtown businesses in their offices to answer any questions they have to proactively keep them downtown. And some of the businesses we met with were considering leaving. So we've had the hard conversations with some of them, and that played a role in some of them renewing their lease and deciding to keep their workers in the city. Anthem recently expanded to hire 250 new employees at their downtown headquarters, and new businesses like Cartel, Burger 809, and Cobblestone have also opened their doors downtown. So if you haven't been downtown lately, I encourage you to come by. I'm there every day, and let me tell you, it's a great place to be. It's also a great place to have lunch. Another question I hear a lot when talking to residents is, what are you gonna do with that Rams money? Well, the city, St. Louis is the only city, and I'm proud to say this, I say this everywhere I go, St. Louis is the only city to take on the NFL and win. And our top priority is spending the rest of the ARPA dollars first, because they have a time limit. They have to be spent, they have to be obligated by the end of this year, which means all contracts have to be in place by the end of this year, and they have to be spent by the end of 2026. But meanwhile, the Rams money is sitting in an interest-bearing account, and right now we've gained over $22 million in interest, so our balance is about $302 million to spend. But we've been working with the Board of Aldermen and engaging the public on this issue, and we expect to introduce a bill this fall that will dictate what we're going to do. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we want to make investments that will impact residents across our entire city for multiple generations. So the RAMS money, in my opinion, should be used to strengthen our neighborhoods, grow our population, and expand our tax base. We should use part of the RAMS funds for infrastructure, or building an infrastructure fund so we can address our roads, our sidewalks, our water department, and other critical municipal infrastructure. The fund will allow us to go after even more federal money and put that towards long-term paving plans. A portion should also go towards continued economic development to help grow our tax base, including growth of the many main streets and neighborhoods across our city. We have some great main streets on this side of the city as well. And we also need to invest in people and make it easier for them to either have a small business or get a good paying job. We want to build on the work that we started with ARPA. Whether it's loans or grants for small business owners, or helping someone earn their CDL to drive a trash truck for the city, or helping someone further their education, RAMS money should be used to help everyday St. Louisans improve their futures, which will expand our tax base and improve our city services. So before we wrap up, I want to share some encouraging stats with you. So, did you know that the St. Louis region gained nearly 31,000 workers over the past year, making us the 7th best U.S. metro for job growth? And I just learned this today. St. Louis ranks 6th in the country as the most affordable city to live in. St. Louis is ranked 8th among the fastest growing tech hubs in the United States by CIO magazine. Our GDP growth was 16th amongst the 30 largest U.S. metros last year, and we're number 1 in growth of foreign-born population among those same metros. And this may excite a few people in the room. Just last week, we were selected to host the 2027 NCAA Division I Wrestling Championships. That's in addition to the 2025 Frozen Four and the 2026 NCAA Basketball Tournament. And this one, I'm going to just scream from the roof. We are no longer in the top 10 of most dangerous cities in the United States. We got a lot to celebrate. These numbers are great for our region, and our city is at the center of all of that growth. So it's an exciting time to be in St. Louis. And I'm committed to bringing people together to solve problems that impact each and every one of you. We're putting in the work now so that we can continue to create stories that people love to share about our city. So thank you again for joining us. God bless you and all of your families. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones. We're going to transition to the Q&A portion once we get this microphone fixed. But while that's happening, we'll start the Q&A line over here along this baseline. So if you have a question, please form a line. Thank you so much. You'll have 3 minutes to ask your question. Michael, sitting in the front row right here, will be our timekeeper. Please be respectful and limit your question to a question. And please introduce yourself, name, zip code, or neighborhood.
Hello, my name is Henry. I attend this school, as you can see by my lovely, lovely sweater. I live in the Fox Park area. I don't exactly know what district, I don't know what to call it. That's besides the point. I had a question for you, Mayor. What is your plan to stimulate the economy and to grow St. Louis's economic power in the country?
Yes, So, along with SLDC, our partners at SLDC and GSL, we are constantly looking for ways to bring new businesses to St. Louis and expand the businesses that currently work here. So, like I talked about earlier, there were businesses that were thinking of leaving downtown, so we went and met with them to answer the hard questions about why they wanted to leave, and we were able to convince some of them to stay and some to expand. We also have an action plan, an economic justice action plan that's on SLDC's website that has 3 pillars to empower, develop, and transform our city through expanding our tax base, growing our population, by making key investments in areas of the city that haven't seen investments in decades. Some haven't been invested in over 7 decades. And so our city can't succeed if over half of it's left to fail. Previous policies have left over half of our city just to fail. And so we have to reverse that, but that reversion takes time, but it also takes intentionality. And so we're being very intentional about reversing reversing the past disinvestment and rebuilding those communities so everyone in St. Louis can thrive no matter what zip code they live in.
2 more things. First, what can a young person like me do to help out in my local community and maybe even join in city representation? And also, for your previous statement, I wanted to ask a follow-up question. What do you mean by increasing tax basis?
So we increase our tax base by expanding our population and also by building more infrastructure, building more housing, building more commercial facilities to attract more businesses. So that's more property taxes, that's more sales taxes, that's more earnings tax. So expanding our tax base that way. And what young people can do, so I have a mayor's youth cabinet that we open up every year to young people across the city. That's one way you can get involved. Anybody in here can get involved by signing up to be on a board or commission. Where's Michael? Yeah, Michael McLemore handles all of our boards and commissions here, so we need everybody to get involved that way. And then also controlling the narrative. Don't let anybody say anything bad about your city, right? Because people always down St. Louis, just like that cousin that we don't want anybody to talk about, but only we can talk about, right? Don't let anybody tell you that St. Louis is a horrible place to live and work, because you know better, so fight back.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna have to take my brother home, but thank you for coming to Bishop DuBourg. Thank you for speaking out. Best city, best flag, let's go.
Hi, I'm Doc McKinnon, Clifton Heights neighborhood. My question is for you, Mayor. Many of our city employees were losing because of the pay. We've got divisions that have gotten raises, gotten new trucks and stuff like that, but there's also many employees as far as service techs, forestry people, painters that have not seen a raise. When is that gonna happen?
Everyone received a raise across the board, 3% for the last 3 fiscal years 21, 22, and 23. But again, we also have to expand our tax base so we have more money to pay our employees. And so every year when we get our budget, the first thing I'm looking at is how can we increase our pay for our hardworking employees. This year, unfortunately, we were only able to do 1.5% because of the threat to the earnings tax. We had to hold back about $26 million to pay for the lawsuit where we had to pay remote workers back their earnings taxes for working during the pandemic. But please know that it's top of mind for me to try to increase wages so we can remain competitive.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Mayor. My name's Rich. I live in South Kings Highway Hills. And my question is, how many illegal immigrants have been received in the city of St. Louis?
How many illegal immigrants? I don't know, because we don't receive illegal immigrants. We don't count that information.
But you don't know, does any of your staff, like the director of police, Art?
The director of the Office of New Americans. We have an Office of New Americans here that
Okay.
works to make
All
sure
right.
that people feel welcome when they come here from another country.
Right, yes, but I was talking about illegal.
That's not the number we track.
Nothing.
That's not-
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Colleen Murphy and my sister Peg. We live on South Kings Highway. Last July of 23, we started having water leaking in the sewer near the health strip between the street and the sidewalk. This is not all the documentation. To Mr. Oldenburg and to Mr. Soller, along with a lot of calls, and no one's taken care of anything. How long does it take to have the city service reciprocate? Fix it.
You have a director of the water department here?
Oh, good. I'll come talk to you.
Yeah. See how that works? He is retiring. Thank you for the 39 years of service.
Hi, I'm Pat. I'm with the Lindenwood Park neighborhood. I know that you know how important it is to have neighborhood associations, but it's also important that the city departments really work with the neighborhood associations. These people are volunteering. We're not being paid. They're spending their own money a lot of times, and they're cleaning parks and picking up trash and holding events in the parks and making it a welcoming place for people. And it's really important for the city, all the departments of the city, to work with the neighborhood associations. Would you agree?
Yes, and sometimes we go out and clean up parks ourselves. I cut grass in a couple of them this year.
So sometimes we don't get cooperation from the city. So I'm wondering how we can remedy that.
Well, I have the director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry right here.
Hello.
You said your name, I'm Greg Hayes, you said your name's Pat.
Yes.
Do you have a specific reference or incident that you feel comfortable sharing with me?
Well, for instance, we have dead trees in the park, and in some cases, the dead branches are hanging very low, and when we have concerts and events, people are worried to sit under the trees, and they come up and ask, why doesn't the city do something about that? And we ask and we ask and we ask, and it seems like it just doesn't get done.
Sure. Well, we're in complete support of any event that happens. We have 110 city parks. We applaud neighborhood groups such as yourself and associations. And if we know about it, which we would know about it because we issue the permits, we do those things. So if there's any lack of communication, I'd like to hear about it. There was Linfest in Lindenwood Park.
Correct.
I'll venture a guess that maybe you were involved with that, but I consider our department to be quite benevolent in the things we do as a municipality to assist the neighborhood associations and do anything we can. If there's any drop balls, I'd like to know personally, and about any drop balls, especially if we're saying, no, we can't do that. That's not how we operate.
It's not, no, we can't do this, it's just no response at all.
Well, if you, I have a piece of paper here and a pen, and I've gone to hundreds of these meetings. I'll follow up with a personal phone call with you tomorrow.
Fine.
I'll solve your problem.
Okay, and I have one more question. Mayor, I know you're working on a regional approach to homelessness, and I'm wondering how that's going.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. So, also as chair of East West Gateway, I have asked them to host a regional practicum on the unhoused and homelessness, and that practicum is scheduled for October 21st through the 25th. Yes. And so I'm hopeful that just like our practicum with crime, that we will come out of that practicum with some really concrete solutions and a way and a path forward to addressing our unhoused as a region, because it is not fair for the city to shoulder the burden of the cost for our unhoused for the entire region.
And I know Alderman Saunier has a bill going through for more beds. Does that interfere, like should that be held back so that your approach has a chance to work before we add more beds?
Well, I see that as something different. So, Alderman Saunier's bill, if we worked with Alderman Saunier to make sure that bill passes through. It just passed through the Planning Commission. Who's Casey? Yesterday, yes. It just passed through the Planning Commission yesterday. And it has been scaled back a lot from the initial draft. But I see those things as working in tandem. We can work on expanding beds in a responsible way, but also expanding options for our unhoused to get to permanent and supportive housing, which is what we want to do, to make sure that we provide places throughout the region for our unhoused to get services that they need.
And is that with a housing first? Using
It's a
housing first? Okay.
Yes, it's a housing first approach.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm from the Princeton Heights neighborhood, and I'm hoping my question actually is going to be a fun one. I know you were kind of talking about events being brought to St. Louis. Like, what is also going to be done to increase the travel and tourism of St. Louis, not just within the downtown, but also with the St. Louis airport? Because I know there's been talk over, gosh, I want to almost say over a decade of either making the airport bigger or just going down to one terminal. I feel like we still don't have answers on what's going on there, but I would like to see more fun stuff being brought down to the downtown area.
And so you just asked one of my favorite questions. What's happening with the airport? Well, I'm going to tell you. So we are moving down the road with our plan to combine the two terminals back into one. We'll have about over 60 gates. And that process has already started. The first part is moving parts of different facilities onto different parts of the airport campus. And then we will hopefully start construction next year. We're applying for grants from the FAA and the Department of Transportation. And that work will hopefully be done by the year 2031, maybe 2032.
Well, kind of along that, because I remember hearing that you guys were able to fly up to Montreal. I recently was able to go up there myself back in May, and one of the things I really enjoyed was like their downtown area and how it was more walkable. And the one thing that I kind of was really impressed by was like their large chess boards set out, and I don't know if you got to see all of that, but I mean, it would be kind of nice, I think, to bring some of that sort of activity down. And I don't know if and that's what I was thinking, like that Keener Plaza area I think would be like a great setup, and I don't know if you guys ever had a chance to kind of look at all that while you were up there.
We did. We noticed that Montreal, downtown Montreal, has a lot of art that people can play with. Their goal in downtown Montreal is for people to come downtown and either do something or do nothing. And so we thought that would be a good goal for our downtown, to come downtown and do something or to do nothing, just to hang out. And so they have a lot of art installations similar to City Garden, but a lot of their art installations are a lot of fun to play with. So hopefully we can get some of those in our City Garden soon.
This question isn't a fun one. My name's Colleen, and I live in 63109, St. Louis Hills. This question is about the out-of-control juvenile crime in the city. I was personally robbed twice on my property, and we all know when the police aren't able to come and write a report, those don't come into statistics. Where this has taken a bigger turn is now they're shooting at my neighbors. They ransacked our cars, busted out windows, and when my elderly neighbor turned on their porch light, they were shot at multiple times. Captain Ziff, Tom, they're all well aware, my alderman is Tom, all well aware of this serious problem. And because of that, you lost a resident on my block. They fled immediately to Clayton. There's multiple bullets lodged in their brick home. So I want to know what is happening with these out of control juvenile crimes, because you're losing residents and losing workers downtown because of crime.
Thank you for that question. It is taken very seriously. When we see things, we go over crime every morning. We look at the patterns and trends. You talked about Captain Ziff. We also have our acting engager, Patricia Allen, who's here today. And we also have several, two of our lieutenants that work in the area. So one of the things, in several different offices, to hear these concerns, we take it seriously. We look at juvenile crime. Now, I came aboard after the mayor appointed me January 9th, 2023. One of the main things that I saw was with the juvenile justice system, what was going on and how these things weren't being addressed. We were releasing juveniles back in the street after we were arrested with guns and breaking into cars. And if you go back to that time in the Foundry, there was an incident where we were able to arrest a couple of kids with guns out after hours, juveniles. And then our officers were shot at when they were making arrests. And I don't know if they were tied to the individuals that shot our officers. Thank God they were all right. But it's a very serious situation. And what is going on in their lives? That they can be out after hours with firearms. And then being released back to the same guardians that weren't watching them in the first place. That's something that goes on in every city. How do we address it? So immediately we were able to work with the administrators of the juvenile court system, and we signed an MOU that actually was in the Post-Dispatch a couple of days later. If you go back to that time, we signed a new MOU to try to address the behavior and also address the families that they're not going to be released back in the street, because we were doing things under the COVID era where we kind of weren't bringing people into the juvenile justice system. So we're a little guilty of that too as a police department, but we adjusted and we readjusted that. We're bringing them in, we're making sure they're seen, because if you don't bring them in to the juvenile justice system and make the guardians come down and we actually have them down, and there's a consequence to their actions that they're not going to bring back home. How do we give them the help that they need and also find out the services of what's going on with their guardians? So that's one of the things that we were able to do. And then when it comes to the gun violence and using firearms, the mayor talked about last year with Waterfall is working with the administration and working with the police department, and the mayor signed off on an ordinance of a concealed carry. And that is we were able to make sure that it wasn't okay under state law. This is the first place I come to that where it wasn't prohibited for juveniles to carry firearms. That's insane. And here we have state laws where we're able to find an ordinance working with the alderman here, Tom Oldenburg, and several of his colleagues. Now the juveniles, because they cannot get a concealed carry permit because they have to be at least 19 years old, they're restricted from carrying a firearm in the city of St. Louis now. Now we had to make sure we put it through legal policy and then training our officers, and now we're approaching juveniles and we're adults. Juveniles who actually don't have it, we can address them immediately. We need summons of the word confiscating those firearms. And then we test fire, make sure they weren't involved in any other crimes. And then we're bringing them down, and then again, now that this is an ordinance, and it wasn't that point system from the state, we went back to the juvenile courts. And we just signed another MOU, myself and the juvenile courts. Now that they will bring them in, they're not going to be released in the streets, carrying a firearm. We're going to bring them in and make sure we process them. The find out what's going on, why these kids out with open carry. Now, what's going on in the lots that you talked about, those are things that we put additional officers out. I'm glad you're talking to Tom Ziff, who's our commander of this district. And we look at those to see what's happening, whose house is being fired at, why are they being fired at? Is there an issue, is there someone in one of those houses that actually has a propensity for violence, is there retaliation? And then we make sure we put mobile cameras, and then we do director patrols in those areas. And then we also do something else. When you talk about surveillance, we collect the shell casings. We make sure we try to match them to the type of firearms that are out here, who might be firing them. And then when we do catch these individuals, and we do catch these individuals, there has to be some consequence to their actions if they're an adult. And a consequence to the family and the juvenile. When I say consequence, get them the help that they need. What's going on in that family? What's going on in that family? So I'm sorry what's going on over there. We'll continue to work with you. We'll find out what's going on. I'm sorry a person moved from that block. But we're going to do everything we can because we take gun violence and firing guns and carrying guns seriously in the city. And you ask each of the commanders here, every single, 3 times a week, we look at every shot's fired this thing. And we find out where we collect the shell case and look at every gun arrest to make sure it's properly prosecuted. Just because you can carry a gun as an adult doesn't mean you can do criminal activity with it or you're going to lose your privilege. And working with the new circuit attorney has helped us immensely. Circuit attorney doesn't deal with the juvenile court, in all fairness to the court. But when it comes to adults, they are being held accountable not just for carrying guns and criminal action. When you're doing a crime with a gun, if you're allowed to carry a gun, doesn't mean you're allowed to do a crime with it. And we'll add that charge and make sure that you look to lose that privilege. Because they should lose that privilege if they commit crimes when carrying or concealed carrying a firearm. Those are the type of things we're going to do. Madam, please come back and we have both lieutenants back here. I also have Acting Major Patricia Allen, who's also here in the back. Let's continue to talk of the things that we've done and the things we can continue to do on that block and see if we can mitigate the situation that's happening.
Thank you so much, Chief Tracy.
Mayor, thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing the city department heads to answer our questions. My name is Terry Gainey. I live at 5724 Neosho Street, a 3-minute walk from here. Many years ago, I received my automobile license renewal notice from the Missouri Department of Revenue, and I put it on the chest of drawers in my bedroom, and things got stacked up on top of it. And renewing my plate totally skipped my mind. I'm driving over in Mascoutah, Illinois a few weeks later, and I get pulled over. And I'm thinking, I have not violated any traffic laws. What's happening? Policeman says, your tags have expired. Gives me a ticket. I pay the ticket and get the tags. Now, Mayor, you can go in the parking lot of Target, where you used to work, and count on the fingers of both of your hands how many expired plates are on these cars. I'm not talking last month, I'm talking 2 years ago. And I think it reflects, you might say we have less violent crime in the city, and I'm not going to dispute that, but I think we have a common feeling of lawlessness on our streets. And I think it can be seen driving down 64, where some people seem like it's a drag strip, cars weaving in and out. My own alderman has told me when the light changes, doesn't go through the intersection right away. He counts 2 or 3 times before he feels safe enough to drive through. I'm asking that we get some traffic enforcement on the city streets. I see that. I can read. So I think I speak for a lot of people, and I would appreciate if that would happen. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. I've been to well over 100 meetings throughout the city. in each neighborhood in this city in almost 2 years with the police chief. If not the #1 issue, it's in the top 3 of every neighborhood in the city. And it's something that I talked to our regional partners in our municipalities and county police and over in Illinois. It seems coming out of the pandemic, there's been a time where, and I've seen this on the East Coast as well, there's been, and this is not, I'll get to the answer of what we need to do about it, but I kind of want to put some perspective and context of kind of how we got to this place where, even as policing a few years ago, we couldn't come in contact with people because we did not want to infect each other. So therefore, one of the things that happened is that people's behavior in being emboldened in how they drive, because the officers weren't coming to enforce traffic laws, because that was one of the things to protect everyone from. And now we have to try to change that behavior. And how do you do that? It has to be done through public service announcements. It has to be done through enforcement. It also has to be done with a little bit of help, where other cities that I've worked in have speed cameras and red light cameras, because a lot of people now will pay that fine, and then it lowers the amount of people that get to break the law no matter what, and then it minimizes how much enforcement we do. Last year we wrote 32,000 summonses. When I talk about moving summonses dealing with vehicles, close to 7,000 of them were for expired plates, unregistered vehicles. So as you can see, we're doing the enforcement, but sometimes we need to do more, and it has to hit different angles. And we're going to continue to do that. Our traffic enforcement, we call them missions in every neighborhood, and some of the things in certain areas where we're having these reckless driving. If you look on our website, which has been revamped, we had a website that was built in 2009, and now we just revamped it this year, and slmpd.org. Please go to that. We'll talk about the neighborhoods we're in, the amount of summonses, and even on 64, we're doing 64, 70, 55, 44. We are doing missions with the Missouri Highway Patrol and also the county police department when we meet at the border. And you'll see the amount of summonses we're publicizing. We want the public to know we're out there because we're trying to change that behavior. You're absolutely right. It is also another thing. And as I come in with a set of eyes that have worked, and a fresh set of eyes working in different places, the one thing that you cannot drive a car in other states off the parking lot, a used car, a new car dealer, unless you have that plate and your registration is paid and inspected. Here, we let people drive off temporary plate and tell them to go back to park and motor vehicle or treasury, as we call it here. And it has to go back in 30 days, which a lot of people don't do. And then if they didn't pay their personal tax in the state, then they can't register their vehicles. That should be up front, in my opinion, because then you actually, they can't go off the lot. We won't be dealing with this 30 days later. I know the state legislature is looking at that right now. There's so many things that they're doing. So kind of in an area where we're hurting ourselves and helping this condition, but at the same time, it doesn't take away the amount of enforcement we're doing. We're on par at the same amount of summonses that we wrote last year. We're going to continue to try to target areas to try to change behavior. This is not revenue producing. This is trying to change behavior, keep people safe, because we do have several high-profile incidents that are out there when people are driving recklessly, and we're trying to contain that, and that's why we looked at looking at the red light camera bill that was helped pass by the Board of Law. This is not go from the mayor, and we're looking at vendors right now to help us, but that's not going to stop. It's not going to replace enforcement by our officers. We take it very seriously. #1, if not the top 3 complaint, every meeting I've gone to, and we're going to continue to take it that seriously. Good question, sir.
Thank you so much, Chief Tracy.
Hello, Mayor. I'm Annette. I'm in the 5th Ward, and I'm a blind person. I have a service dog, and I walk in the neighborhood daily with my dog. And my problem is that I am constantly smacked in the face by low-hanging tree branches which are on city property. and I know that a homeowner can report this to the Citizen Bureau and forestry will come out and take care of it, but a homeowner may not know that this is affecting me in this way and how. So I would like to know if forestry can come through and take care of all these branches, particularly on the 3 or 4 streets that I constantly walk every day. That's my number 1 question. My number 2 question involves the intersection of Chippewa and Hampton. You have audible pedestrian signals there, which are great. However, they are not working properly. I have reported this to streets. I got my neighborhood improvement specialist involved. Streets have been out several times to fix it. It is not right yet. It's not synchronized. It's not loud enough. What can I do about that?
Well, first and foremost, I apologize for the inconvenience and definitely the imposition that it's a safety issue. You shouldn't have to walk in the tree canopies while you're walking on a city sidewalk. That's completely unacceptable. So again, I apologize for that. Just while I'm standing, well, what you can do is I'll be here after the meeting. I'd be happy to jot down those blocks you're referring to. I trust, even if you haven't, I trust you can call the Citizen Service Bureau, which has been mentioned before, 622-4800. Regardless of that, we'll take a look at what you're talking about and raise those up so you don't have any impediment, so to speak, while you're trying to walk on a city sidewalk.
Hello, my name is Bethany Williams, Director of Streets, and thank you for your question tonight. We are seeing that we have a lot of intersections that were upgraded with pedestrian facilities, and they've met some of them have met their life expectancy, and some of the timing of the signals need to be recalibrated. So we have taken the initiative as the department to make sure we identify some of these locations and we update the push buttons, we update the automations, as well as the timing of the signals. So I have jotted in my phone that intersection, and I definitely will make sure that if we will check it out, we'll make sure that it's fixed within the next couple of weeks as well.
Hi, my name is Maureen Avoris. Thank you, Mayor Jones, for being here. I live in this ward, probably 3 or 4 blocks from here. I'm also the Republican committee woman for Ward 2. Part of my question relating to that, the boards and commissions, it's just my opinion and other people that I know, it seems like whenever you are trying to apply for anything on the boards and commissions, no answer back. I don't know if that's strictly just for Democratic people, and I'm not being funny when I say that. I just don't know what's going on there. That's one question. My other question, when the other gentleman asked about the illegals, and you said that you don't track them here, or we don't track them, why not? I want to know why that would not be an issue, why they are not tracked. My third question, I saw on the news last week something about the St. Louis Development Corporation. They were protesting at a luncheon that you held. I just wanted to know what that was about. They were saying that they weren't receiving the money for the small businesses. It's just something I'm interested in. Thank you very much as well.
So the first question, Michael McElmore, can you raise your hand? He handles all of our boards and commissions, so feel free to have a conversation with him afterwards, and he can check whatever applications you made. Because some of our boards require really specific skill sets or resumes, so he can check and see what you applied for and what the status is there. It's not our business to track illegal. Well, it's not our business to track every person that comes within the city, I will not use the term that you used, because that is a matter of homeland security, and that's a federal matter, that's not a matter of local government. And your last question about SLDC, the Board of Aldermen passed a bill allocating about $37 million in ARPA funds for the North St. Louis Corridor Grant Program. We received over $400 million in requests for about $34 million in available funds. So there were some unrealistic expectations about this pot of money. This money was never meant to be to cure all ills that happened in North St. Louis. It wasn't, and because of that, there were, when you have a finite amount of money, there are going to be winners and losers. And so some of the people who were protesting last week were not successful in their grant applications. We have been working with SLDC to vet all of the businesses who have been conditionally awarded funds. Less than 10% of the funds have been less than 10% have already been funded. And the integrity and well, there's nothing wrong with the program from a legal or compliance standpoint. SLDC is doing additional vetting of the remaining companies that are in the program, the remaining organizations that are in the program, to make sure that they can spend money by December 31st, 2026. If it is determined that they cannot spend that money, then they will allocate that money to another organization. So that's what that program is about.
I don't mean to take up, I won't take up any more of your time, but it was interesting because the lady that was protesting said she was turned away at the door. People had bought tickets for $125 for this luncheon, and a few of them weren't able to go. They were very upset, saying that the money is not going to them, as promised. And then when you were on, the news, it was something about a company that had been hired with something, didn't follow the guidelines, and that's where the mix-up came. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying something just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, we never promised anybody that applied for funds that they would get funds. Everybody had to make an application, and the applications were scored objectively. Some scored higher than others. And this particular person, her application did not score as high as others.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones. You're welcome. Hi.
I had a second question. There was a discussion about juvenile crime, and it seems like a lot of the young criminals lack a father in the home. How can the city enlist the help of maybe churches to encourage and lift up fathers in the home as an important thing to reduce juveniles committing crimes? Thank you.
Sir, my son doesn't have a father in the home. I'm a single mother. The absence of a father for any reason doesn't necessarily mean that that child is going to be involved in criminal activity. Some single parents, there's a mother not in the home. But the work that we're doing with our youth, the Office of Violence Prevention, keeping our rec centers open late on the weekends. We also have the Director of Children and Families, where we're doing structured activities with our young people making sure that they have safe spaces to have fun and just be kids has led to a 50% decrease in juvenile shootings in 2023. So I'm proud of the work that we do going into our adult young people. We're splitting. We have year-round youth jobs because we realize that some children are in precarious situations where they have to also work and bring home money for their families. So we try to meet young people where they are and provide them the resources that they need in order so they can stay safe. Now, the one thing that we identified through State Lives Now is that there is a small percentage of people that are committing the most crime. And so the State Lives Now initiative is going to focus on that small percentage of people that are committing the most crime. And through focus determined, cognitive behavioral therapy, trusted messengers will reduce gun violence and reduce homicides by another 20% over the next 3 years.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones.
Jamie, Princeton Heights. Okay, so I really debated if I wanted to talk about this because it also has to do with juvenile justice. So right now, currently, I'm lucky enough to work for the state of Missouri with the Department of Mental Health. However, from 2000 until November 1st of 2021, I actually worked with the state of Missouri Division of Youth Services. If anybody's familiar with that, that's actually with youth that have committed offenses and they've gone through the courts and they are supposed to receive treatment before going back out to the community. One of the things that did lead me to switch careers is because I am aware of kind of the stuff that goes on. I am aware that we do have judges that have verbally said they will not certify a youth because also, I don't know if you guys are aware, we're a raise the age state, so they can actually stay in juvenile till they're 19. But also, like with the Division of Youth Service, they also have basically it's the Department of Corrections works with them also. So basically, like a youth can be committed and they go there. I am aware of runs that happen because I used to work at Hogan Street. I even had 9 kids run on me once. Also, I don't know if you guys are aware, if a kid runs after so many weeks or months, they have to be discharged. So if they're discharged, they're back out on the streets, there's nothing that can be done, you know. You can maybe go through the courts again. We actually did have what's technically was an adult offender run from the program who was never caught and was discharged. So technically, you do have one that's out on the street. So basically, I know you're talking about all the good stuff that's going on, but I know the realism behind kids that escape from not just St. Louis County, those programs, but also the city. All the damage they've done, how they have run out. So I don't know if there really is like full transparency going on. And I mean, I would like for there to be more data given to people because I do feel like a lot of the community is not given the true aspect of what's going on. Like I said, I know because I said I worked for 21 years, so pretty much I can kind of give like a little lowdown of what's going on. And I probably would be there if COVID wouldn't have sort of kicked me away.
The data is what it is. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. We're not fudging any of the numbers of the things that we do, either through the police department, either through our youth services, through our involvement with SLATE or human services. I stand by my department heads and the data that they report.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones. The gentleman in the red shirt will be our last question tonight. Make it a good one.
Yeah, I have a couple questions that address a certain, well, it's multiple parts to the question, okay? First off, I live in the Alclair neighborhood that backs up to the Greens. The crosswalk there, we all know, well, I'm sure the department knows that they stole the wire out of it. There's no response on when they're going to put the traffic light back in service. With that being said, the lights at the crosswalk have been out for 10 years. That's 10 years. Every time we call about it, they're like, yeah, we're looking into it, we can't figure it out. Same time, the street lights on River de Pere Boulevard, at one point we had 7 street lights out between Morgan, Ford, and Gravois. I think we're down to 5 street lights that can't be fixed. I don't understand what the problem is. Those are 2 problems. The third one is when the water department does work on the street and they fix a leak, aren't they supposed to put the curb back in? Because they decided that wasn't necessary. So now we've got grass growing into River de Pere Boulevard. So those are 3 things that would like to be addressed. Oh, and one other thing, in the park at the Greens, a person has decided that the park is their private parking lot for their mobile barbecue pit, a commercial one, a Chevy pickup, 60s model, that is all the windows out of it that they're restoring over the last year and a half. And now they got another vehicle back there. This is all on a soccer field. This is city property.
So I think, thank you for that. I think it's important that we understand as a city that our infrastructure is aging. And we are at the point now, under my leadership as director, identifying how do we be more proactive in all of our infrastructure needs, making sure that they're serviced. Our current budget is only for reactive approaches. So when a signal is knocked down or a signal, falls out of place, that is the only way that we have the funds to go in and replace these signals. What we're finding because of the wiring, the conduit, things of that nature that are underground that ties into the intersection, the power to the signal, we're having to rebuild a lot of that as well. So not only we see just the signal, which you can see are the lights from the ground, we're dealing with underground issues as well. And so the streets department is actively trying to figure out how do we budget and how do we identify a more proactive approach to making sure that our infrastructure and our city lights, make sure they're maintained and they can stay on. But I will definitely look into this intersection. I'm not for sure about it, so I don't want to give you any information that I don't know. But I will look into it and figure out what's going on with those lights. You had a question about the water department. You can also ask that to her, Scooby, right there.
Greg, do you mind answering the Parks Department question? Thank you so much.
No, I don't mind at all. So when you talk about the greens, the information you just relayed to me and to us obviously is concerning. Are you seeing this individual, not that it's necessarily curfew, as you curfew there is 10 p.m. Is this individual by chance there after curfew, or is he set up during the day? And I haven't seen it by personal observation. But my question to you was, are you seeing a presence beyond curfew consistently? He's there all the time? Or is he checking out during the night, coming back during the day? Okay. And you have a Citizen Service Bureau request on it, I trust as well. Okay. Be happy to look into it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. That concludes our Q&A. Mayor Jones, do you have any closing remarks for this evening?
I want to thank all of you for coming, and I want to thank you for all of your great questions. Again, we have cabinet members and staff staff who are here to answer any of your questions, and please take advantage of all of the booths around the perimeter. We've got personnel, slate, our wonderful first responders at the fire department. You've got PETA pull down if you need utility assistance. Who else? We've got the Department of Health here for vaccines, and the St. Louis Area Agency on Aging. So we have brought City Hall to you. Again, this is why we have the community, because we want their government to be easier to understand, easier to participate in, and easier to navigate. Thank you all for coming.